And just to let you know, this webinar will be recorded and sent to all of the registrants. And we highly encourage you to ask questions during and after the webinar, as we will be watching over that and answering as many questions as possible. And then also we have a special offer to announce at the end of the webinar, so please stay tuned to hear that. All right, we can go ahead and go to the next slide.
Should be on the next slide now.
Yep, yeah, we can go to the next slide. Not seeing it on my side.
Hold on one second. Oh, I stopped my share. Now we're back on.
There we go.
It should be on
Awesome.
the cool.
Awesome. Okay, great. Yeah, so Renvue was found, or do you mind scrolling down just a little bit? Or, yeah, awesome, thanks. Yeah, Renvue was founded in 2012 and we're headquartered over in Mountain View, California. We have several fulfillment centers or warehouses located in California, Texas, and New Jersey. And then also we have a very technical team of sales engineers. We all have a background in engineering, so if you have any technical questions for us, we'd be happy to help you out with that. And then we can go to the next slide. Yeah, so some of the services we provide include on-site analysis, mainly for commercial projects, but if you have a residential project, just let us know and we can probably work something out for you. We also offer professional engineering services for residential and commercial size projects, and this includes permitting plans, wiring diagrams, professional engineering calculations, you name it, we can do it for you. We also offer business credit terms, where we actually work with financing companies to provide different financing options. So if you're interested in that, please let us know. We can discuss that further. If you have any excess inventory that hasn't been used yet and you want to get rid of it, before getting rid of it, just let us know and we might be able to work out some pricing for that, and we might be buying that off of you if you're interested. And then also we have a Megawatt Club, which gives you free shipping for a full year on all of our products, including wind, building products, energy storage, everything. Super popular among our installers. And yeah, it gives you great perks. Then we go to the next slide.
And just real quick, I switched the screen mode to try to have it better viewable in full screen mode. You know, everyone just chime in and let me know if you still need me to increase the zoom on stuff.
Great, thanks. Okay, yeah. So the next part, so these are a couple of our other services that we provide on our website, which are calculators. They are system calculators that make it much easier for installers and homeowners to design their own systems. So we have calculators for grid-tied systems, grid-tied battery backup, and as well as off-grid. And then that's under the Solar Kit Guide. And then we also have a battery upgrade guide, which essentially works as an AC coupling guide. So if you already have a system without batteries at the moment, we can go ahead and upgrade the system or have a calculator for you to upgrade your system into a battery-backed system. And then we also have other calculators as well, like an inter-row spacing calculator and string sizing calculators, so on and so forth. And then we can go to the next slide. Matt, also, is there a present version of is there any way you could go into presentation mode for the slides?
Yeah, bear with me one sec.
Sure,
normally
no
this isn't a problem, but of course, because it's a live webinar, we're having a tad bit of technical difficulties. Just bear with me one quick sec here.
Yeah.
Let's see. Sec.
But anyways, yeah, so this is our Solar Kit Guide page, for all of you wondering what we're looking at. And essentially, we lay out all the options for you to build a system in a very easy way. And then also you can see on the left side, there's a bill of materials for for the system as you go throughout the build. All different types of roofs, 60 cell, 72 cell panels, string inverters, micro inverters, all that stuff is included in the calculator, which really helps streamline the process of designing I know how much of a headache it can be to do all the calculations for the racking and sizing the breakers and all that. So this makes it all very convenient.
Go next slide.
Yeah, we can go to the next slide. Okay, yeah, and then so similarly, this is for the battery backup system. Our regular grid-tied non-battery calculator is very similar to this, except here you can see that we're asking you a few questions about your battery usage, or I'm sorry, your energy usage, so that we can size your batteries appropriately, as well as looking at how much sun you're getting to make sure that your system can charge the batteries appropriately. Yep.
Sorry, I'm trying to get one of these open in PDF, in PowerPoint mode, so I can go full screen for my presentation. Sorry about that.
Okay, no worries.
And I'm ready with your next slide. Bear with me.
Yep.
This is the fun of doing a live webinar, folks. Sometimes this stuff isn't scripted.
Yeah. It's the information that matters, right?
Exactly. Exactly. All right, you should be back. Whoa, hold on. Bear with me. Of course you're not responding. We're in a live webinar. Fantastic. Always fun when screen sharing is stopped because I tried to do too much at once. Bear with me again, folks. All right, now we should be back up on the where to look slide. Hold on one sec. Let me get my screen share back up and activated. There we go. We should be on the where to look slide now.
Okay, great. Awesome. Yeah, and this is the last slide from RenView. It is a little blurry on my side, but this is our homepage, and we're just showing you, hovered under the product section, where you can see all of our off-grid backup materials. There's also inverter, racking, balance of system tabs, and so on. You can see that right there. That's where you're going to find all of our product selection stuff. And then also, please feel free to reach out to RenView if you ever have any questions. Again, this is going to be wrapping up my portion, and I'm going to be handing it off to Matt. But if you guys have any questions, please feel free to send them through the chat or the Q&A section. And then also we'll be showing our contact info at the end if you want to reach out to us after. Thanks, guys.
Excellent. Thanks everyone. So I am the best possible news I could give everyone is I'm running a slightly modified version of this presentation on PowerPoint, and I'm going to make that active in just a second here. So thanks to everyone's patience on that. This should tell me if should be back to full screen in just a second. And I'm just going to answer a couple questions that we have in the Q&A while I'm waiting for this to go. Can everyone actually, let's display settings, where's interview? There we should. So can someone, Chris, can you chime in and let me know if that looks a lot better now, like total full screen?
I do not see anything on my side. I just see a frozen cursor.
It's because it's paused again. That's why. Hold on. The joys of using this, Zoom is pretty fun. I can't recommend it enough under certain conditions, but every once in a while we have a little bit of technical difficulties, but it should be up on a full screen now. Okay, yep. Good. I'll just answer a couple Q&A right off the bat. So DC coupled and AC coupled, we want to make this product work basically right out of the box in any kind of inverter topology that you see. When we first came up with this product, we saw what was happening with demand in the U.S., particularly in Q3 and Q4. How every single utility company, every time they open their mouth about a power shutdown happening, it's essentially free advertising for any solar company, in the Western U.S. these days. So we wanted to capitalize on that and kind of build on the QCell name and really give someone a product that is operable out of the box in a variety of different configurations. So I'm already seeing a lot of great questions around, hey, will this work with Enphase? Will this work with SolarEdge? Will this work with this inverter and that inverter? And all the checks and all the testing that we've done, either with live beta tests or in our lab in Santa Clara. We do have a working lab where we have a Q Home unit connected powering loads right now. It indicates that really no compatibility issues across the board. You are more than welcome to touch base with either myself or our engineering team. If you have a particular one-off scenario with an inverter with a really unique characteristic to it, and we'll of course be able to advise on, you know, system compatibility, configuration. I do want to just remind everyone that a very important thing to note here, we do not need to use any sort of third-party backup gateways when we talk about backup mode with this inverter. And I know that's, you know, that's something that needs to normally get installed because of the lack of automatic transfer switches inside inverters. Not the case with us. So when you so please make sure, if you don't already have a backup gateway installed and you're wondering, do I need to buy third party, you know, kind of peripheral devices to make this work in backup mode? It's not the case. We don't need to worry about it. So unfortunately, that's one less thing that Renvu has to sell to you with this particular platform. But we also think it's going to help the cost of the build scale very, very cost effectively. So, and it doesn't look like I have any other questions. So I'll just keep going. I do have a question about battery to module inverter ratios. I can show our spec sheet showing you, you know, kind of a amount of, you know, AC that we want going into the inverter. And Tanvir can also, you know, kind of take those questions in the second half of the session as well. So excellent question, Richard. Thanks so much for that. And we'll make sure we get that answered in very granular detail. But let me just kind of go through the basics just so everyone's got a really solid understanding. And then Tanvir will come in with the heavy duty electrical engineering discussions later on. So questions, you know, how big of an inverter do I need to use? You see we've got basically 4 inverter sizes right here. The first 3, 6 to 7.6 are going to sit on a 40 amp breaker. The larger inverter, the 8.6 kilowatt inverter, is going to need to sit on a larger 60 amp breaker. So when you're thinking about, you know, what's the size of my main service panel, these first 3 inverter sizes would support anything on a 200 amp main panel. And then this 8.6, you know, our kind of our biggest, our heavy dutiest inverter is going to need to sit on a likely a 400 amp backup, 400 amp main service panel. So, and the nice thing about all of our inverters, they will all work up to 7.6 kW, or excuse me, 7.5 kW in backup mode. So this is something that we see as pretty unique for the price point that Renvu is going to be offering this for. I do see other systems that are able to handle, you know, 50, 60 amp loads, but, you know, with those type of systems, you're talking about multiple inverters, you know, batteries kind of all over the wall and very, very high price points as a result of that. So what we decided to do, and I'll show this to you in a separate slide here, but connecting, you know, 3 of these 4.5 kilowatt hour or 3 of these 6.3 kilowatt hour batteries is going to get you to a place where this inverter will work with being able to fit 7,500 watts onto each backup load panel. So when someone asks me, what does this, you know, what does it not do? It doesn't do 50 and 60 amp loads at this time. By Q1, I want to say, and I'll let Tanvir, you know, kind of circle back with our general ballpark dates on when these firmware updates are going to be done. But we believe we're going to be able to handle, you know, larger loads in Q1. This also doesn't work in a fully off-grid format, so we always are going to need a 60 hertz signal for the, you know, to connect to the grid when we commission the inverter. I've already had some comments from some very, you know, technically minded, very DIY, very smart people saying, hey, can I use a generator to replicate a 60 hertz signal so I can put this in a hunting cabin in the middle of nowhere? The answer to that is a very firm no. We do not want you doing that. That will void the warranty. So I do need to see a grid signal when the inverter turns on when we commission. But after that, it can work in a very, very grid interactive, grid independent mindset. So I always like talking about the things that it doesn't do before we talk about all the things that it does do. And I apologize if I sort of muddied the waters there in the beginning part of this. So again, what it doesn't do right now, anything larger than servicing a 30 amp breaker in backup mode, again, that will change later on, but this kind of first iteration with this first version of firmware will handle anything up to a 32.5 amp load, so a 30 amp breaker. We will be able to handle larger loads later on, and this will not work completely grid independently. So those are the 2 big things of what it doesn't do. But when we start talking about, I'm going to kind of zoom forward on a couple slides here, just so I can kind of get to the meat of what I was talking about, and then we'll circle back onto this. So I get this maximum backup load of 7.5 kW when I connect 3 batteries. Okay, so and Tanvir can follow up with, you know, the amperages, the surge amperage, you know, the surge power for a 1 to 2 battery system. The SKUs that Renvu is likely going to be mostly supplying, I'm sure Renvu is going to size some of our smaller battery units, you know, a single battery unit for a new home build where you just need to check a Title 24 box for compliance. You know, we will be able to sell those units to you, but particularly if we're talking about, oh, well, my customer wants something that's like a Powerwall in terms of output, and I want to make sure I give them that same output. You're usually going to be talking about a 2 battery setup for a 5 kilowatt complete output in backup mode. And then you're going to be looking at a 3rd battery to achieve that maximum backup load of 7.5 kW. And then we start getting into the, you know, the capabilities and the functionalities of like a Sonnen system or one of the new Enphase systems. But I think you're going to see when Renvu shows you what pricing to installers is going to look like, I think you'll see very, very quickly that when we look at these 3 battery systems, you're going to get a system that functions very similar to how we view our modules, kind of hitting the sweet spot on the baseball bat. A lot of great performance, a lot of great functionality without that big, massive price tag. Couple quick questions. Supply side taps for smaller panels, larger inverters. I think we want to answer that really on a case-by-case basis based on you know, the AHJ and what you're normally able to do inside of your energy storage permit package. And you know, part of the reason that we're so excited to be able to offer this to the installer community is that Tanveer loves talking about, you know, one-off situations. What can I do? You know, can I get a larger inverter on a smaller main service panel? What are the steps? What are the walkthroughs we need to do to achieve that? We're certainly able to handle, you know, all those questions on case-by-case basis. And also I saw another question, you know, is DC coupled better than AC coupled? I think because the inverter is able to do both, I personally don't have a preference on DC coupled versus AC coupled. Besides, you know, we all know that DC coupled is going to be a little bit more advantageous for round trip efficiency. If you really want to squeeze every drop of juice from the PV system out to the energy storage system and then back out to your home for backup potential, then a DC system is always going to be a little bit more efficient because it's going through fewer of those DC to AC switchovers. But in terms of AC coupled, I think the reason why we saw a need for the product to work in both mindsets is I want something that, you know, installers are able to take back to customers and say, look, if you already have a solar system up on your roof, if it got installed 3 or 4 or 5 or even, you know, 10 years ago, I want to be able to offer a plug and play option. That means you don't need to rip up all the hardware on the roof. You don't need to start installing rapid shutdown devices everywhere. You know, we can make our system work with existing PV systems in an AC coupled format. So just want to make sure everyone understands, again, the inverter can operate in either a DC coupled or an AC coupled format. And we basically set up that operation mode during the commissioning process. And that's when we tell the inverter, hey, here's how you're going to work. Here's how you're going to operate. So there are no different SKUs for a DC coupled system versus an AC coupled system. The only really SKUs that are going to be any different here are going to be the types of batteries that I'm going to be using. So the SKU, we have different SKUs for all the different AC output inverters. You know, so a SKU for a 6 kilowatt inverter is going to be different than a SKU for a 7.6. The SKUs for the 4.5 kilowatt hour batteries are going to be different than the SKUs for the 6.3 kilowatt hour batteries. And again, you can add 1 to 2 to 3 of these 4.5 kilowatt hour or 6.3 kilowatt hour batteries in series. So you cannot mix and match a 4.5 with a 6.3. The inverter's not going to like that. But you can mix two 4.5s. You can mix 3 6.3s, and you can fit all those into one inverter. Any questions on any of that so far? It looks like we've gotten most of the open questions answered at this point. But I'm happy to take a couple questions if anyone has any.
Also met this Tanveer, so I am already answering the questions, like typing the answers, and you're already answering, like you're saying that, but I also typing just for reference.
Excellent, fantastic. And we're actually looking at an old data sheet here. I apologize for that. Like I said, I had to get on the fly and get this thing full screen. The outdoor rating on these is actually an NEMA 4X. It's not an NEMA 3R. So another very often asked question, will this work outside, or do I need to mount this inside of a garage? And what the NEMA 4X rating basically means is you can spray this with a garden hose. Rain is going to get on these things. That's not a problem at all. I just don't want you spraying these with high pressure water like from a power washer. So please do not spray high pressure water at our high voltage electronics. So that's I would hope that goes without saying, but I just like making sure that we say that, you know, at all times. So, and just another question from Ted. Thanks, Ted. The simple question of what's a SKU, SKU of like just a product listing. These are the different items and different prices that Renvu is going to have laid out for you. So there's a different SKU for a 4.5 kilowatt hour setup with just one battery, and there's a different SKU for a 9 kilowatt hour setup, et cetera, et cetera. So thanks for asking that, and I apologize for having to do a little bit of back end housekeeping here. So I did, and you know, the Max PowerPoint tracks, these are going to be based on DC coupled setup. For AC coupled, what we really want is a 1-to-1 ratio. So I don't want you putting more than 7.6 kW worth of AC into a 7.6 kilowatt energy storage inverter. And again, you know, Tanvir and our engineering team are really well versed in helping people figure out, well, I have this much DC on the roof. It's already going to this many Enphase micros or this type of solar edge system. You know, how do I make everything work with each other? You know, that's great follow-up questions, and our, you know, engineering team's always happy to work with our installer community on how to get all these, you know, kind of one-off setups figured out. So let me take you to a quick look at everything on the wall. This is a view from our PTI lab in Santa Clara, where we do live demos. We can do, you know, help you out with install and commissioning tips and whatnot straight from that lab. You're looking at the inverter right here, auto transformer, so we can handle both 120 volt and 240 volt loads. This is the battery management system that sits on the, you know, the main battery unit. Second unit right here. And if we had enough space on the wall, if we had a bigger picture, we'd show you a third battery right here. Quick question that a lot of people ask, you know, what do I need to connect these two batteries to each other? You need a power cable and a data cable, and you can see that connection right there. So there are maximum limits on how far apart we want these battery units to be run. And again, you know, Tanvir is a great resource to kind of circle back with and see, oh, well, here's my plan set, and I really need to locate this battery 10 feet away from the other two. And, you know, is that something I can do? Again, we're happy to kind of, you know, keep taking those questions for you. So excellent. I'm getting close to the end of my spiel here, but I will just like to sum up with a couple quick other items. We handle the warranty for this entire product, which is, you know, something I think everyone's going to be happy about. You don't want any finger pointing to say, oh, well, this company made the battery units and this company made the inverter, and everyone's, you know, no one's taking responsibility if there's an RMA. Qcells handles the RMA, labor reimbursement. So we do have a truck roll policy on when the inverter fails, or, you know, when the inverter fails, you know, 9 or 10 years from now, we'll be able to service it for you. 10-year warranty on the inverter. And there is a megawatt hour cycle warranty on each battery unit that we'll be happy to share with you. The Renvu folks have all of these technical documents at their disposal, so they can, you know, help you bring full circle and help you really get the full warranty understanding on the product as well. We also do have a ability to get this rebatable through our Q Partner program. If no one knows about our Q Partner program, I do want to make sure we mention that to you. Anytime you buy 60 cell modules or a Q Home unit through Renvu, this is kind of like an installer rewards program. And if anyone's not set up on it, again, please let me know. I'd be happy to connect you and happy to get you signed up for it. Basically, your phone turns into, or your operations manager phone turns into a barcode scanner. When you use the Q Partner app, you scan the serial numbers on the back of modules, and you scan the serial number on the inverter, and you get rewards for all those modules that you buy from Renvu. So if you're not on Q Partner, please let me know about that, and please let your Renvu, you know, sales reps know about that, so that we can get you set up with this free program that is essentially just money coming back to you whenever you buy Qcell products. So yeah, so you know, nothing but good stuff on my side. Oh, we are going to be doing we are doing a Qcells Q Home certified installer program through that Q Partner website as well. So if you want to make sure you go back to your end users and say, I'm a certified installer for this product, I know how to do it, I've gone through all the install videos, I'm a competent, well-certified installer, we can obviously get you set up, you know, with all the training you need as well. So, and one more just, you know, quick aside from me, does this, you know, can this work in different, you know, different operation modes? You know, can I set it in time of use and arbitrage, and then have it, you know, be able to be, you know, be able to be put into backup mode with a couple hours notice if I get a power shutdown warning from the utility? Absolutely. And Tanvir, again, is a great resource for helping people figure out different commissioning modes. He'll be spending a little bit of time on that today. I call it basically smart thermostat operation. So you can make it, operate always in arbitrage mode between that very crucial 3 to 9 p.m. time. If we have any Hawaii customers on the phone, yes, this can work in complete self-consumption mode. And we can also set a kind of a secondary series of operation modes where, hey, I want you working in arbitrage unless there's a power shutdown signal located from the grid, from your grid operator, from the utility. And then we want that system to, sit in a 50% state of charge. I don't want you to discharge below 50%, so I can have some reservoir in the battery for if the power goes out. We can make it work that way too. So, and yes, David, excellent question. The recording is going to be made available. I don't ever like to assume that someone's going to be, taking notes or expecting a quiz at the end of this. Renvu team, can you just chime in and make sure that we are recording this?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is being recorded at the moment, and we plan to send it to all of the registrants after the webinar.
Nice.
And if you're seeing this and after, and you want it to get sent to you as well, just shoot us an email. Contact info is going to be available at the end.
Great question from Mark. When power is lost from the grid, is the switch over to battery very quick and seamless? I believe, Tanvir, we're less than 100 milliseconds. Is that correct on switch over time to backup?
Yeah, it's less than 200 milliseconds when the grid is lost. If the grid comes back, then it's less than 100 milliseconds. And all those information are in the data sheet also.
Excellent. And if a question from Anonymous, fantastic. We get a V for Vendetta Guy Fawkes question today. Awesome. When will the product be live on the site? Your Renvu sales reps have pricing on this. We will be live we'll be sort of quote unquote drop downable in the SGIP website within probably the next week or two. Units are ready to ship. Units are being tested and installed with installation partners all around the West Coast. So this is a real product that is ready to go, that is ready to be purchased and ready to be put into operation. So
yeah, just to speak onto that, sorry to interrupt. Yeah, so it'll go live on our website today. All of the products. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us after, and we can get you started. And also, I'd like to reiterate that if you have any questions in regards to design, our sales engineers here can help you figure out how to integrate this system into a new system or any existing solar systems.
That's part of the great value add from Renvu, making sure that anytime you talk to a sales rep, they know more than I know. That's certainly a great resource to have. So thanks for the Renvu plug at the end of this. And just my last slide real quick. I think this is going to be a really, really, kind of hard hitting slide, I guess you can say, when we look at, what are some of the biggest installers in the market, the biggest names in solar. Yes, this is a brand new product for us. But we're very excited about the capability of it. We think it matches up really, really well with what most installers and what most homeowners are going to need. Again, we think that this product kind of hits the sweet spot on the baseball bat. It's kind of the Mercedes-Benz or BMW of energy storage solutions. You'll certainly be able to find systems that do a little bit more, but their price points are going to be at like Rolls-Royce level. So, I think this is the reason why Renvu wants to partner with us, because they realize, hey, most people love the idea of having a BMW or a Mercedes on their roof, in their garage, powering their home when the grid goes down. So, and Neil, great question. Federal tax credit eligible. In terms of ITC, I think if you're partnering this with a PV system at the same time, I would believe that it is available for ITC. But again, I think you want to go back to your best practices and say, if I've ever been able to get an ITC for a solar customer before using any other energy storage product, then this will be no different than that. There are no extra bells.
I can chime in. Sorry. I mean, this is actually great question I have to answer here. So, under the system, our system has special protection where the battery will only be charged from the solar panels, like the PV. And one of the restrictions for ITC is that you have to show that your battery is not being charged from the grid. So in case of ours, we can show that. And as I said, by default, the battery is never being charged from the grid. You can enable. If you want to charge the battery from grid, you can do that. But if you want to take advantage of ITC, then you have to make sure and you have to show the data that your system is not utilizing the resources from the grid. Rather, it is only being charged from the PV. and that we can demonstrate and we can provide, we can get you all the data. And as I said, by default, the system takes care of this part.
Yeah, thanks for circling back on that. Yeah, so again, just to reiterate, as long as you are not charging your system from the grid, as long as you're charging it solely from PV, then yes, it is eligible for ITC, and Tanvir and the rest of our team can help you with the backup documents, and the backup operation modes needed to show if you ever get really, seriously vetted or audited because of your ITC claim, we'll give you the backup support to show you that, hey, this is eligible for ITC. So, excellent. So, and Tanvir, just make sure you have a good internet connection. We have some very pointed feedback that you were breaking up just a little bit when you went through there just a couple minutes ago. So Tanvir, I think I'm going to get you on the next slide, let you talk about the different operation modes. And then if you could share your screen once you're ready to go and take everyone on a tour of monitoring, then I'll stop the share and I'll give the presentation over to you. But hey, thanks everyone for listening to a sales guy talk about really, really technical stuff. I appreciate it, and hope you all have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, so thanks, Matt, and thanks for letting me know. And please let me know if you cannot hear me clearly, or just type in here so that I am at this hour. So I have like 2 internet connection as a backup, like backup. If something goes wrong, I can switch back. But yeah, so far it looks good. And thanks again, like going over the presentation. So I like to highlight here, like I see a lot of questions about the operation modes. And can this system work in this mode or that mode? Can I just use it for grid tied or only off grid? So let me try to explain those things. I think it will make easier to understand what this system can offer and what not. I think Matt talks about all those, like the capability, like how much power we can support, what is our energy storage backup capacity, how much power we can support during the off-grid mode. So first of all, this product is a hybrid product, but one of the biggest advantage of this product is that it can work in DC coupled mode, it can work in AC coupled mode, it can work with existing PV installations. You can replace your existing PV inverter and just replace our inverter. You can do that. I mean, we did all these kind of data installations already so that we can say with confidence, no, I mean, we can do these things, and we actually have right now installations for all these different types. So for example, we, just replace Phoneos inverter, which was very near to like the warranty period. And then customer replaced that Phoneos inverter. They kept everything same for the PV strings and just replaced our inverter. Now he gets new 10 years warranty with the battery. So that's like no brainer. And if you want to like Enphase microinverter, or if you want to use SolarEdge like optimizers, we can also work that. As I said, we have these different firmware. So during the installation, we have the opportunity to kind of like decide, like, do we like to operate as like a DC coupled, or do we like to move into AC coupled configuration? And once you move that, the battery is intelligent and it can form the microgrid. And that's one of the biggest feature we like to highlight. When your grid goes off, your PV is not really inactive anymore. Your PV power can still be used to charge the battery. In this configuration, you can control your Enphase microinverter. I mean, that was one of the biggest concern, that when the grid is gone, Enphase microinverters are like grid type thing, and they cannot really do much thing to support your backup system. The Tesla or some solution, you have to have this additional kind of gateway, which is called like backup gateway, to run this system. In case of ours, we have all embedded, so it's much easier installation. I mean, it's like straightforward installations, and the best part is like for DC and AC coupled, there is not a lot of difference. The only difference is that you have to connect your solar connection, not in the main panel, rather in the backup, so that your battery can still be keeping the PV inverters on, and the PV power can be used to charge the battery. So this is kind of like high level configuration. And in terms of like regular operation mode, can we support like time of use? Definitely, we can support time of use mode. We have this multiple charging window, and you can decide what kind of utility tariff you want to play with. You can just exactly control the system. Okay, I want to charge the battery from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. and I want to discharge after 4 p.m. because I want to take the advantage of this time of use rate. We can do that. Can we just use it for self-use, which means that I don't want to backfeed anything to the grid. This is especially applicable for Midwest, where when you buy electricity, you pay like 12 cents, but when you send it back, you only get like 4 cents. So that doesn't make any sense. Rather than feeding it back, you can just use your excess PV generation to always charge your battery, and then you can discharge the battery to support your local load in the main panel. That means you can save the money in your utility bills. We can support that kind of mode. Can we work in just off grid? We can do that. I mean, as long as your battery is on, it can create EPS mode, which is called emergency power supply. So even though the grid is not there, we can work on that. How seamless is the transition if the grid goes off? I think we talked about it. So you will almost feel it. It's like less than a 1/5 of second, like 0.2 second, or not even like a 1 single second. So it's just like a quick blink. Maybe there will be a blink and that's it. And we can support up to 32 amperes continuous current, not like a surge, continuous 32 ampere, which is like 7.5 kilowatt when you connect up to batteries. So these are like all, I think, very advantageous kind of like stuff that we are going to offer with a very competitive price. And let me just something more that might be making you interested, like how you can do all those like remote configuration. Can you support the system remotely? Can you upgrade the firmware remotely? Can you change the operation modes? For example, you know that something is coming out and you are not at home, so you want to keep your battery fully charged. Can you just switch back? Can you change the battery capacity? I mean, right now we support customers to have a discharge up like 90%, which is like SOC 10%. But if you want to make it 20%, 30%, you can also control those. If I want to change my operation mode from like self use to the time of use, can I do that remotely? Yes, you can do it. If I want to turn off my system for like a super emergency, can I do it? Yes, you can do it. So there is emergency button. So if you're not at home or if you're not at like so close to go for like a super emergency, as long as your system is connected to the cloud, you can simply push that button and you're all safe. So you have all those protections there, and I believe it's quite powerful. And I just want to have like a quick overview, like what you can see as the end user. And again, there are multiple access levels for installers, then agent, which is the developers, and definitely we as a manufacturer, we can see more. But let me just share my screen. So Matt, if you kind of give me the access, I like to share the screen. And so far the connection was good, right, Matt? You hear me clearly?
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit. You might want to pop over to your other channel. I did get a quick question about that. You might have a little bit too much gain on your mic from a sound engineer in the crowd. So you might want to switch over. And while you're switching over, yeah, I'm going to stop the share. I'm going to pass control over, and I'll take a question from actually two great questions. And Eric, don't worry, I haven't disregarded your question about your BMW i3. I'm going to let Tanvir answer that kind of in a parking lot format. Jared's question, is your inverter certified for SunSpec? Absolutely. We have that documentation. We can provide it to you, no problem. Question from Steve, is a critical load panel necessary? If you are running backup mode, if you want this thing to fire when the grid goes down, absolutely, you do need to wire a critical load, backup load. It depends on how you name that panel. I think we could all, just kind of be reminded that how you name that panel, that your AHJ may give you a lot of grief if they think you're hooking up, an oxygen machine or a UPS type thing. So just be careful on how you note what we call a backup load or designated load panel, to your particular AHJ. So just make sure you're careful about how you do that. So bear with me, Tanvir. I'm still getting over to making you the presenter. Bear with me.
I already shared my screen. Can you see it, Matt?
I can't though. Yeah, I can see it. Yes, but I've stopped your video. So bear with me just one quick second here. Let me end my slideshow. Hold on. It looks like we are. Chris, can you chime in? Are you seeing the Qcells QHome ESS kind of portal right now? I just want to make sure someone else can see it. Sweet.
Yep,
Good.
that's what I'm looking at.
Tanvir, take it away, sir.
Okay, so let me first try to answer the questions here. So first question was about can we integrate your a BMW i3 with the battery? You can. I mean, as you connect 3 batteries together, but I mean, we don't have the generator as of today ready. We have the hardware in the system, but the software function is not yet ready. So we cannot provide that at this point with this current product, but we're working on it to update the firmware, hopefully early. At this point, the generator connection is not there. I think Matt already answered those things. There is a follow-up question. Is the backup load recommended or necessary? So I think Matt kind of tried to answer it. So it all depends on if you want to use your critical load panel, like at emergency condition when the grid goes off, you must need a backup load panel. So we cannot connect the backup load to the main panel because it's not a full moon backup. You can only support up to a particular load. So you will need to have a backup load panel if you want to get power when the grid goes off. And then the other question is, I understand it can work in off-grid mode, but it can be used for an off-grid system, like in cabin in Urs with no grid. I was trying to explain that as long as your battery is connected and there is a special operation mode that we call black start. In the black start mode, you don't need the grid to turn on the system. So that I was trying to explain. We can work in grid type mode and off-grid mode, and also we can work in the purely off-grid mode where there is nothing, like no grid. And then there is a special operation mode for that we call black start. and we can just turn on the battery to support your system, and it can just work on. As long as there is PV, you can also charge the battery. So even without grid, we have this control in the system, and that is a special control to turn on the system if there is no grid, as long as the battery is connected. So yes, we can support that kind of situation also. Then other question is, somebody saying the screen is not being shared now. So Matt, can you see my screen, or like Chris?
I can't, and it says you're viewing Tanvir's screen. Let me just make sure that I'm not doing something incorrectly here.
Yeah, I'm just
Chris.
looking at the home screen with the enter username, enter password, login.
Exactly. So that's
field.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing too. Vern, and Vern, I think you're the only person that's commented that you can't see the screen. If for some reason you can't, then we're more than happy to take you on a monitoring tour when you have the time. I sincerely apologize that you can't see it, but no one else is saying they can't see it, and both Chris and I can see it. So
yeah, I just logged in the system. Matt, can you see it? So you should see it.
I can, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, good. Vern, you can see it now. Fantastic. We can see clearly now. The rain is gone. Excellent. Take it away, Tanvir.
Awesome, great. So let me just try to clarify the question. So would I be able to hook my air conditioner and laundry machines to this? It's kind of tricky. I mean, it depends on your air conditioner size. We don't recommend that because there's a lot of surge power. I don't think that it's really highly applicable for the critical load panel, but what we can support, and that's what we have been doing with the customers. So there are some air conditioner, those are like flexible connections and smaller in size, just for a small room. We can support those. So the whole situation here is that we have to be restrictive about the backup power capacity. As I said, with the 3 batteries, we can go up to 32 ampere continuous power and 35 ampere for surge. So if your air conditioner is less than that, we can definitely support that. So it all depends on what kind of configuration you have. Does it void the warranty to self-install? No certified electrician during the installation. Yeah, we don't recommend that. I mean, you just cannot do it by yourself. We need some electrician who is experienced. I mean, he doesn't need to be certified by QSUS. Matt, you can chime in. Like, what is the practice you're following right now?
I just chimed in and gave you a completely contradictory answer. I apologize for that. So, I mean, I think if someone is very DIY, very handy, then you can install most facets of a solar system on your own. You just need to make sure you work with your AHJ, your permit authority, very closely on what facets of the installation do I need to have a C10 or a certified electrician present for, and follow those to the letter. If they say, if you sneeze, I need an electrician there, then you need to have an electrician there through all phases of the install. But if they come back and say, really, we just want to make sure they're there for the, for the DC tie-in, then work with your local electrician accordingly. So thanks, Tanvir, for the extra kind of oomph on this. So yeah, generally speaking, what I've seen in practice, a self-installer can do this probably 75 to 80% of the install themselves, but we need this, the AHJ, the permit authority, is going to want to make sure that a certified electrician is signed off on the plans and has been there for the most crucial sort of integration, safety, type portion of the installation, if that makes sense. So, and good question, Steve. Will it work with a generator? Not at the exact moment, but as Tanvir said, we are working on a firmware update for Q1. It's not a hardware limitation. It's just a firmware and a software limitation for us to be able to handle that throttling up and down with a genset. So we are planning for that in a later release. So not at this exact second. Right now, what we want this thing to be able to do is to work in either arbitrage mode or backup mode with an existing system that is tied to the grid in some way, shape, or form. Another question from Anonymous, can I hook my air conditioner and laundry machines up to this? You want to pay attention in the data sheets to the maximum output current, depending on the number of batteries you have connected. I think you have a much greater chance of this system being able to be installed on larger loads when you're using the 3 battery setup. But again, you want to go back to the placard on the back of each device and say, okay, how many amps, how many volts, how many watts is this thing going to pull? How many amps is it going to pull? And I want to make sure that the backup load panel, that I don't overload that backup panel, because then that will trip the inverter. So good questions all around. You all are asking excellent questions. Thanks for doing this.
Really good question. I mean, let me try to explain again about this, that off-grid mode. I think there's a follow-up question. So what I was trying to explain here, for regular operation, we need the grid signal to commission. So that's a regular operation. So that's like not an abnormal situation, but if there is a special condition where you don't have any grid and you just want to make the system work, and that was I was trying to explain. So there is a special condition called black start mode, where you can just turn on the battery without the grid, and as long as PV is there, you can just operate in regular operation mode. So that's not a regular operation mode. That's why it's not being said that you can just turn on the system without grid. That's not the standard. If you want to have a special system without any grid connection, we can also support that, and there is nothing additional you need to do. Everything is already embedded in control. And I think there is more question about like, can we work with a different battery and all those things? Actually not, because it's an integrated system. So even though it looks like a two separate box, but I mean, our inverter only works with our battery. So it's a full package. So, and that means that we don't only sell the inverter, even though the inverter can only work for PV. For example, if you don't want to connect the battery, no backup panel, just PV, it can work as a PV inverter. But if you want to work with a battery, then it has to be QM battery, because that's how the certification is. We cannot just connect to other batteries, unfortunately. There are a lot of questions. Let's try to answer. I think these are all good questions. So here's an exact date when these will be able to handle 40 plus breakers. Yeah, I mean, we have a product. I mean, we have a product 8.6 kilowatt and which can handle 63 ampere breaker. So, I mean, if you want to go for like higher products, we have actually 8.6 kilowatt, which is around like 36 ampere continuous, and 41 ampere is like the surge. So you have to use like 63 ampere for that kind of thing. So yeah, we have that product, but it's not like the product we are having in inventory just to make sure. But if there is a big volume or interest, we have all the things done. It is already in the CEC list, so no issues there. Ta-da. So if the inverter trips, is there a log document? Yeah, I'm going to show that. So let's give me some time. I think we don't have a lot of time. So let me just walk through this monitoring portal. You can see all those error log, the portal, the servicing, all those things. So as you can see in my screen, this is a real system. It's a running system in California. And this is what you can see as an inverter. When you log into the system, you can see this overview. And if you go here in the inverter to see more, so let me just click on that. So Matt, again, please let me know if you cannot see anything, what I'm saying.
Oh, we're good, man. Keep going. You're good.
Yeah, so in the inverter, you can see this like a blue thing, which is like a serial number. If you just simply click that, there is a new page opening up, and you can see everything detailed. What I mean, like what is a PV doing? What is a batteries doing? How much charge you have? What is the total energy yield over the period of a month or a year or something? You can see all those things here. If you want to go like more detail in terms of what is going right now, so the system refreshes the data in every 5 minutes. If you simply go here in the top, real-time display, and this is very interesting because all these arrows are meaningful. So let me try to explain what is going on here now. So this particular system is in time of use mode. So they only discharge the battery after 4 p.m. and they charge the battery starting at 9 a.m. in the morning when the sun comes back. And the mode is set, okay, I only want to charge the battery from the solar system. So now let's see what's going on here. So they have two strings connected. Each of the solar string is generating around like 1 kilowatt. So they have like 2 kilowatt of PV power. And if you see the household load with the CT data, it's only 583 ampere, 583 watt. So that means they have like excess 1.5 kilowatt from the solar panel. And as you can see here, that full energy is going to charge the battery because it's in time of use mode. My priority is that I don't want to feed back to the, if I have excess energy. I want to charge the battery so that I can use it when the rate is expensive after 4 p.m. So that's what exactly is happening here. And that's why you're seeing there is nothing going back to the grid. And that's what is a real system. And it is going to be updated in 5 minutes. You can see the time here. For example, right now it's 10:50. It's like exactly now what is going on. The solar power generation is low because of all these like cloudy issues with the wildfire. So we don't have like a lot of good clear sunshine. So that's why the power is pretty low. But typically this system generates around like 5 kilowatt in a regular day, and you can see it's only 2 kilowatt today. The question,
and everyone, just so everyone knows, this is a live system in Sonoma County, California right now. This is an actual system that is operating. So this is not it's not a dummy system. It's not the sterile system in our lab. This is on a customer's house right now.
Yeah, great. So now the question about this error log. So if you simply go here in the alarm, so this system has nothing because it's so far working pretty well. It's good to know, but we cannot erase the data. You can see everything here. If there is like an error happening, so there is a big log. The log can go up to 1 year. So I mean, it's not like erased, like if there is a data, we will erase it. No, we cannot do that. So you can see everything that is happening I mean like last 1 year, and you can see exact date and what was the error code, what was happening. And on top of that, you can see data for the battery. I think that is really important. You can see all those charts for every single day. You can see the historical data for the battery, like how your battery is performing. So to get an idea, what is the battery condition? Is there any like error or any alarm there? You can also check that. You can see all the software function there, like what is the firmware part for the battery. You can see all those information here too. And the most important part, I kind of encourage people to see, for example, if you just disable the voltage and current and just see the power curve and the battery SOC curve, that kind of gives a clear indication how your battery is performing. Let me go back like yesterday, how the battery is supporting like time of use rate. If you can see here, so I go back to yesterday and just SOC, you see the battery was trying to charge at 9 a.m. and it ramp up, fully charged around like 4 p.m. because after 4 p.m. I was supposed to discharge from the battery because my rates are expensive, and you see it's gradually discharging, and around like 12 a.m. at midnight it goes to like lowest capacity, and by that time everybody is going to sleep, so we are all good. So that's what is a real system, and we can see every day, every month, and at data. This system is performing really great, and we are very confident and we are very open in terms of like what kind of data you can get. You can get more detailed data for your PV system. For example, if you simply want to see how your PV is doing, I can just select like say PV1 current, and you can just see it. You can see for the monthly data, you can see for the whole large period. If you want to download this data, or if you want to store all those things in your own cloud, there is an API. You can ping the system and you can get those data from here. You can download the data for every 5 minutes or every 30 minutes based on your interest, and you can store those things. So CSV format is there. And now this is all about monitoring, how to control. I think that is another interesting part of this. So if I go back to my original screen.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of questions on, hey, how can I set this to only to charge like this and you know, put state of charge at 50%. So yeah, if you could show everyone, that'd be great.
Right now. So if you go ahead device management and there is a remote setting, just click on that. It pops up a new screen. I don't know if you can see it because it's a different screen. But can you see that screen, that there is a new pop-up screen?
I see the pop-up.
Oh, that's great.
And you're still on the inverter. You still have the inverter serial number highlighted. I just saw a pop-up, but we just lost it then.
So let me just share that because it's a different tab. So let me just open that.
Folks, thanks for all the great questions. Really, we can't thank you all enough. This shows everyone's paying attention. We like that.
Can you see that now, Matt?
Not yet. Give it a sec though.
Your sharing is paused. Who paused that?
Wasn't me.
Okay.
It looks like you've started it again.
Okay, so let me just share. Yeah, sorry for the interruption. How about now?
Hold on. Yep, I see your different setting modes.
Yes, I just enter the system and let me walk you through. First of all, let's go to the basic, how to change the operation mode. So you can see all those things. I explained about this system switch. This is really important. So say you are not at home and maybe you're not close to the system and something happened. I mean, there can be a lot of unexpected event. Something happens and you want to turn off your system. Just go to your mobile, there is an app, and just click on this button, system switch. The system is fully turned off, no issue. Everything is turned off, no power, nothing, and you're fully safe. So, but to activate that, your system has to report to the cloud. So the caveat here is that as long as it is connected to the cloud or internet, it can be turned off remotely. Now, if you want to change the operation mode, just go here, work mode. And right now I have this self-use, which means that I just want to charge the battery whenever I have excess PV power, and when I don't have enough power, I will just discharge from the grid. And if you want to go to different mode, like forced time of use, just click that, and it will pop up like more screen. I am just saving this. It's all instantaneous. I'm just doing it real time. Okay. Yep. And then you see all this window coming up. Matt, can you see it? Charge period 1. Can you like charge from the grid and all those things? So you can set up the time and other stuff, and you can save it. So that's how it works. And the other thing that I want to show, I don't think we have a lot of time, but let me just try to show that quickly about that SOC. How you can just control the battery depth of discharge. Once you go to this advanced setting, there is a part called charger. If you go here, and now you can control those things here. Like what is the level you want to control for the battery? Do you want to keep it up to 20%, 30%, 40%, doesn't matter. You can just change this number from 10 to 100. And you can also decide what is the max current. So don't get confused about this 25, that is a DC current for the battery. So that is nothing correlated with your like 32 or 35 ampere, because 32 is the AC current that you're going to get, but this one is internal current, so nothing to do with here. And then you can also control the export. For example, if you don't want to backfeed to the grid, maybe more than 1 kilowatt, you can also control those numbers from 0 to 60 kilowatt. This is particularly important for Hawaii, because in Hawaii, we are not supposed to feedback anything. So it has to be 0, and we can do that. And the other thing is I want to show here, if you go here in the portal, we have this multiple operation mode for the grid profile. You can select like California Rule 21, you can select typical IEEE 1547, and also you can select Rule 14H, which will by default make the system configurable for the Hawaiian location. And there are more, but these are the most important feature, and these are quite strong. And as an end user, these are fun to play with. And because you know your system much better, as an installer, this gives you more flexibility, and you can also push the firmware to upgrade whenever it is required. And there is also an option to batch upgrade, which means that as I know that, okay, you have like 10 systems together into your portal, I can upgrade all those systems remotely, all at the same time, as long as all those are connected to the cloud. So I guess I try to kind of cover like the most features. Matt, anything you think that this mean?
I think you've done a pretty good job setting most of it. Yeah. And I know we have some overflow questions, and I know we're also at the end of our time slot. Chris, how much more time do we have before Zoom kicks us all off of this?
I'm not sure if it's actually going to kick us off of it. But I mean, we had until, I mean, it was scheduled until 11. I don't mind going, you know, a minute or two over to explain some of the, or answer some of the questions. I actually had a quick question. Tanvir, do you mind going over the stackability real quick of the inverter for those who are looking for larger systems?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. There was a question about that. So at this point, our inverters cannot talk to each other, which means that it's not like a real parallel. We can parallel the systems together for the main grid panel, but for the off-grid connection or the backup panel, it has to be separate, which means that you can connect 3 inverters together and you can stack it all together in the main panel. There is no issue with that. But for the backup panel, it has to be separate. For each inverter can handle up to 7.5 kilowatt. So if you want to support the full home backup, like a 15 kilowatt, you have to divide the loads into 2 sub-panels, like 7.5 and 7.5, and you can work on that. So that's what we can offer at this point, as our inverters cannot talk to each other, and that function is going to be also added, I believe, either end of Q1 or early Q2 next year. So we are already working on that, because it's just a simple software upgrade where you have to implement this CAN communication between the inverters, like a primary and secondary control. So it's already on this kind of development part, but at this point, I mean, we cannot support like a full home backup, like just using one backup panel and stack up like all the inverters together.
Okay, great.
Normally what I tell my installation partners is, like Tanvir said, if you want to handle a 40 amp load, you want to use the 8.36 kilowatt inverter. If you want to go back to, well, I don't want to upgrade my main panel, like I got a 200 amp main panel and I don't want to do more than that, then you're going to use a 7.6 kilowatt inverter. You're going to basically add up to either 30 amp loads on the 7.6 or 40 amp loads on the 8.36, you know, so to have that be your amperage limit, and then have your wattage limit be, again, the 7,500 watts that each inverter can handle in backup mode. So you need to design the backup load panel, not only for amperage and for current output, but also for overall power output. So make sure, basically, as long as we see, you could wire three backup load panels if you wanted to, and let's assume we're working with a 7.6 kilowatt topology. You could do 30 amp load on one backup load panel, like a big honking AC unit that just needs a 30 amp breaker. Cool, put it on one backup load panel. Second backup load panel, lights, computer, router, garage door opener, and make sure if you have garage door opener and you have this inverter backup mode, make sure your garage door opener is included on that backup load panel, because you don't want to have to manually open your garage door when the power is out. And again, make sure that none of those loads exceed in cumulative 7,500 watts, and make sure that, again, if we're using a 7.6 kilowatt inverter, make sure there's nothing that's going to have more than a 30 amp breaker, or no cumulative more than a 30 amp breaker. So 30 amp breaker on one backup load panel is great. A 20 amp and a 10 amp on another backup load panel is great. You could do 6 5 amp breakers. So you can handle all these things. And the important thing to remember here, everyone's going to roll their eyes and say, wow, that's a lot of backup load panels to handle. If you need this kind of functionality at this exact moment and you don't want to wait for our firmware upgrade in Q1, that's what you'd have to do. Otherwise, you wait for the firmware upgrade in Q1 and you just make sure you have enough enough space on the wall or on the outside wall or on the garage wall for extra batteries when it comes time for us to be able to stack more battery units. The other important thing to remember, like I said before, no backup gateways necessary to be purchased with this because our automatic transfer switch sits inside the inverter already. So please make sure you mentally and on your on your project list, make sure you take that backup gateway out. We don't need that. It's basically just a vestigial part. It'd be like if I grew a tail, I don't need a tail, so I'm not gonna grow a tail. So make sure you don't think of a backup gateway as a tail that you do not need to grow to make sure that this system gets connected. It has all the functionality behind it. So.
Great. Real quick, since we're past 11 and we're seeing some people hop out of the webinar, I wanted to let everyone know that we have a $500 rebate promo going on for the Q Home system. So if you place any orders by October 9th, we can give you a $500 Visa gift card on the Q Home. And this is separate from the partnership that Qcells is offering. So, hop on both of those. You're going to be getting some great deals on this new system. Yeah, and then also, I know we have a lot of questions here, so feel free to forward them all to info@Renvu, and we can talk with Tanvir and Matt to help you out with hashing out some of your questions.
Yeah, it sounds like there might be a need for us to have a second session on this just for technical deep dive, and that's great. I mean, that shows that people are interested and they want to learn more. And this is half of Tanvir's and my job is interfacing with small installers, do-it-yourselfers. We're just making sure everyone has a good time with the system. So let us know how we can help going forward. It may be a good use of everyone's time for in a week or two after you've been able to absorb Renvu's pricing. It might be a good idea for us to just schedule another 30-minute session for Tanvir to just do rapid fire Q&A, and we're okay with that. So.
Yep. And also, I'm posting our email.
Sorry, Chris. I think you have to answer it. So somebody is asking, like, hopefully this is not too pricey like Enphase. I want you to pick.
No. I already chatted him back and I said, after you take a look at Renvu's pricing, I think you will see the system pencils in much, much lower than Enphase. I think of these, there's obviously a lot of competition in the space now, but if you know anything about Qcell modules and how we place those in sort of the chain of how our competition stacks up, this is why I use the term Mercedes-Benz or BMW. You're going to see systems, and I don't want to name names. I don't like dragging competitors through the mud, but you're going to see other systems that do a little bit more than what our system does that are going to be offered at like Ferrari and Rolls-Royce pricing. When you look at cost per kilowatt hour, and they're going to do a little bit more, but they're going to cost a lot more. We really think of most of our product line, we think of it as a BMW or a Mercedes. You get a lot of great features, you get a lot of great output, but the price point isn't massively high. It's a fair price point for basically kind of like a good luxury, sort of product, but it's not like a sports car or a Rolls-Royce that's going to completely break the bank. So this is why we're the number one module supplier for both the US residential and commercial market. Between the beginning of 2019 and right now, beginning of Q4 2020, 1 out of every 4 homes that went solar in the US used Qcell modules. And I think there's a reason why Renvu is wanted to really bring us back into the discussion on these things, because they've realized, hey, we want to partner with a BMW or a Mercedes type company. We don't necessarily need to partner all the time with the Rolls Royces and the Ferraris out there, because we'd rather give you a solution that really, like I said, I use this a lot, but it kind of hits the sweet spot on the baseball bat. So.
Yeah, I agree. This is a really versatile product. I mean, for frame of reference, for most things that you see with these types of systems, I don't want to name any brand names, but you're going to need, a battery inverter. You're going to need some type of management system. And then, you're going to need several separate components just to make, just to suffice for a single application. But with this, with the Q Home, it's all integrated. Like Matt said, basically plug and play. You don't have to think much about it. You've got all the granularity from the monitoring. So with other systems, it can be a pain to set that all up, especially just speaking from the design standpoint.
We had a full meeting with Tanvir, can talk about this. Tanvir had a full meeting with PV Evolution Labs. You know, everyone knows their module scorecard rankings and their energy storage scorecard rankings. You know, they're basically kind of a vetting and you know, check step process for PV hardware. Tanvir, what was their first comment of like, we couldn't believe how easy it was to commission the system?
I think that was one of the biggest compliment I get. So I mean, I went to their lab yesterday just to make sure that everything is working properly, and because also for EVL, it's a new experience to test this energy storage solution for their scorecard and all those things. So yeah, I mean, for our commissioning, I mean, it was super easy. I mean, we don't need any app, or we don't need to upgrade the firmware or any other things. As long as you connect the stuff properly, which means mostly the wiring, and as long as there is power from EV or battery or the grid. So depending on what kind of condition you have, as I said, and support grid type mode, off grid mode. So they were very impressed in terms of like, I mean, it was very easy compared to many other systems that they have. And we say that also with confidence that, yeah, there is a lot of space to improve. I mean, I cannot say it's the best product, like at this point, it's one of the best, but there is always space of improvement. But so far our commissioning process and like all the installation practices that they have kind of went through for multiple systems at their lab, the feedback is very positive. And definitely we have to wait for the final report, but so far that's what I mean. I was happy to be there, at least to see how the system is running and get to know what they're doing.
Right. Cool. Chris, anything else on your side? Like I said, there's a couple miscellaneous questions, but I really think if people study the data sheets and kind of look back through the recording and everything, I think we've generally covered most of them. So I don't want to, you know, keep just taking up time. Right. I know we're kind of over on the webinar anyways at this point. So I would say, you know, anyone that has an overflow question you think we didn't answer, I bet we did answer it in the last 70 minutes. And if we still didn't answer it, then you have our contact info, you have Chris's contact info, and we will make sure those questions get answered for you. So I just like closing to make sure if we did not get to your question, just make sure you ask it back to Renvu, and Renvu will talk with Tanvir, and I will make sure everything gets handled.
Yeah, real quick. I think we might have skipped over it in the slides, but I posted it in the chat. Renvu's contact email is info@renvu.com, info@renvu.com. And then our phone number is 855-755-5855 if you guys need to give us a call. Thanks,
I still
everyone.
don't know how you guys got that number. Good job on getting that phone number, by the way. Like, you could remember that from heart, basically. So, yeah.
Exactly. All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Tanvir, and all of Qcells.
Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Have a great day.
Take care. Bye.